Hi guys, welcome to this video on Act 1 Scene 4 from Macbeth. And similar to the previous videos, we will listen to a version of this scene before looking at my annotation, focusing on characters, language, structure and themes. Now in this scene, Duncan meets Macbeth properly for the first time in the play. We see something of Duncan's appreciation towards Macbeth, and we learn that Duncan is going to visit Macbeth's castle for a feast to celebrate their victory in this big battle. This scene also deals somewhat with the punishment of traitors, and we begin to see Macbeth's rebellion and traitorous thoughts begin to emerge within him. So before we start looking at the annotation, let's just have a little listen to this scene.
Is execution done on Cawdor?
I have spoke with one that saw him die, who did report that very frankly he confessed his treasons, implored your highness' pardon, and set forth a deep repentance. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it. He died as one who had been studied in his death, to throw away the dearest thing he owed as 'twere a careless trifle.
There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. Oh, worthiest cousin, Macbeth! 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 The sin of my ingratitude even now is heavy on me. Thou art so far before that swiftest wing of recompense is slow to overtake thee. Only I have left to say, more is thy due than more than all can pay.
The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Your highness' part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state, children, and servants, which do but what they should by doing everything safe toward your love and honor.
Welcome hither. I have begun to plant thee, and will labor to make thee full of growing. Noble Banquo, that is no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so. Let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart.
There, if I grow, the harvest is your own.
My plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seek to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. Sons, kinsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, know we will establish our estate upon our eldest, Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland, which honor must not unaccompanied invest him only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. From hence to Inverness, and lodge this night with our beloved Macbeth.
I'll be myself the harbinger and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach.
My worthy Cawdor.
So humbly take my leave. The Prince of Cumberland. That is a step on which I must fall down, or else all leap. For in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand. Yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see.
true, worthy Banquo, he is full so valiant, and in his commendations I am fed. It is a banquet to me. Let's after him whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman.
Okay, so let's start looking at the annotations now. So, within Cawdor and MacDonald, we are shown the different fates of traitors. MacDonald died on the battlefield. He died still fighting. And Cawdor died to a public execution. Both of these are bad. Now this kind of links in with the gunpowder plot, which is another contextual factor within this play. The gunpowder plot was foiled only a few years before this play was written, and it was a plot to kill King James. So Shakespeare would have been very keen to portray the punishment of traitors in this play that was first shown to King James. And definitely in this way, he shows that it pretty much only ends in death if you try to be a traitor. We then see Duncan use the word execution to talk about Cawdor. And this is killing backed by the state. And this develops the idea that Macbeth's killings were right. Do you remember back in Act 1, Scene 2, when the captain talks about Macbeth's blade smoking with bloody execution? This shows that Macbeth was killing in the name of Duncan, and so it was all okay. Now, taken from the scene, we need to think about the different words that are used to mean murder within this play and what those words link to. So execution is killing backed by the state, but later on we'll see the word assassination used. That's a very different type of murder. And all of this kind of builds up to present an ever-changing, ever-evolving idea around when violence is good and when violence is bad. We then see Cawdor's death by execution, and Malcolm says nothing in his life became him. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it, to mean that he died with dignity and honour. He fully confessed his treasons. He begged for a pardon and showed regret, but he had to die. Now this is the opposite of what happens to Macbeth. Macbeth is very much the MacDonald kind of traitor. He will die on the battlefield. So just bear that in mind. Moving on. So we now see some ideas around what kind of king Duncan is. He says there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. And this foreshadows Macbeth's treatment of Duncan. He's saying here there's no way of telling what a man's mind is just by looking at his face. And we'll see this again developed where Macbeth says, false face must hide what the false heart doth know. Macbeth is going to put on a false face, and this means Duncan won't see the danger in going to Macbeth's castle. And I want you to think, how might this show Duncan as a weak king? Is it right that you can't tell what someone's thinking by what their face looks like? Or is it simply that Duncan lacks the skills to tell what someone's thinking by the way that their face looks? And also it shows that there is an absolute trust, that Duncan trusted Cawdor absolutely. Now there is some irony here, and this will come up again, but the irony being that here Duncan is betrayed by Cawdor, the Thane of Cawdor. Now Macbeth has just been made the Thane of Cawdor, and he's going to betray Duncan. So in the space of in the space of Act 1, shall we say, Duncan is betrayed by two different Cawdors, betrayed by two different people. Now, he doesn't see that betrayal coming. He didn't see it with Cawdor. He doesn't see it with Macbeth. How might that show that Duncan is, in fact, quite a weak king? Now, Macbeth, Banquo, Ross and Angus arrive, and Duncan doesn't want to appear ungrateful. He says, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy on me. He wants to bestow Macbeth and Banquo with all the honours that he possibly can, with all the titles and the power and the wealth that he possibly can. And he's a very grateful king. Now, here we see some irony, where he says, "Only I have left to say, more is thy due than more than all can pay." So he's saying here that you're owed more than anyone could possibly pay you. Well, the irony comes because Duncan is going to pay Macbeth with his life. Duncan is going to pay Macbeth by making him king, by going to his castle and being murdered. So again, that would indicate some weakness. He uses heroic couplet there. That's a power play a little bit. And then Macbeth is shown as loyal. The loyalty I owe you, in doing it pays itself. Our duties are to your throne, and state, children, and servants. So at this point in the play, Macbeth is behaving loyally. He fought for Duncan, 100% loyal at that point. He's now had his prophecies from the witches. He's still mostly loyal. There is a seed of disloyalty, but Macbeth definitely is loyal at this part of the play. Then we have another reference to nature, and in particular plants. And this is kind of an extended metaphor over this little bit of speech. He says, "I have begun to plant thee," to help Macbeth grow. That Duncan has planted Macbeth within society, and he wants to see him flourish into a man of value and a loyal Thane. But at the same time, this talks about nature. And the idea of Duncan planting people and planting things shows that Duncan is very much in accordance with the natural way. And by saying that he'd begun to plant thee, this is also a reference to the great chain of being. He's started to give him a little bit of power, and that is Duncan's right. So Duncan is nature, Duncan is a natural character. And this also refers to the seeds of time that Banquo mentions earlier. And this shows once more that both Macbeth and Banquo are early in their careers and also early in the play. So noble Banquo, that hast no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so. This is a direct opposite to what the witches say. Duncan here is using unequivocal language. He's being straight up with Banquo. He's saying that he's no less deserved and no less to have done so. Not no less deserved but more, or no less to have done so but more. And being opposed to the witches, Shakespeare shows that Duncan is not evil. And if you were to consider that Duncan is the representation of a king, and this play was written for King James, Duncan in a way represents King James. And so Shakespeare's kind of showing him a little bit here, I know you're not evil. And then this metaphor is extended. There if I grow, the harvest is your own. So Banquo recognises that Duncan is the reason for his progress. He understands that it's the things that Duncan have given to him that mean that he's going to be successful and he's going to have things. This is something that Macbeth doesn't realise, and it's one of the key differences between the two of them. We then have a little reference to the great chain of being, that Duncan says that, we will establish our estate upon our eldest, Malcolm. That is quite natural and quite normal within the great chain of being. The idea that power would pass on to Duncan's children, that's pretty standard. And again, shows that Duncan is part of the natural, normal world. And then Duncan really gushes over Malcolm. But signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. This is the idea that power will emanate from Malcolm and pass down to others. That power will come off of Malcolm. He will delegate, and more people will become powerful because of him. Which again is a reference to the great chain of being and the natural order of the great chain of being. We then see another aside from Macbeth. So he says that the Prince of Cumberland, Malcolm, is a step on which I must fall down or else I leap. He knows that Malcolm stands in the way, and he also knows that Malcolm poses a threat, that he's going to have to get rid of Malcolm somehow, otherwise he's going to fall down when he actually tries to take power away from him, because Duncan has ordained that Malcolm will become the next king. Now, here's a really important piece of imagery. And, yeah. Macbeth says, "Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires." Here he's asking the sky to black out the stars, to black out the light that comes in at night, to cover up what he's going to do so that God cannot see. Because in killing Duncan, he's going against the great chain of being, he's going against the natural order. He recognises that if God were to see what he was doing, then he would be in for a massive, massive punishment. So this also shows that he recognises that killing a king is unnatural. Let not light see my black and deep desires. Let not goodness, light could be goodness, see the blackness within him. And yeah, as I've already said, Macbeth wants to act in darkness so that God can't see what he does. So he says, the eye wink at the hand. Sorry, let not the eye wink at the hand. That Macbeth wants to act without looking. He knows it is wrong. He's scared of what he's about to do. And he doesn't want to see what his hands are about to do. Because, it's really traumatizing for him. But we see here that Macbeth has started to use rhyming couplets. Now, he doesn't do this very often in the play, but here he's using rhyming couplets: fires, desires, B, C, which I think links with the witches and their speech patterns and shows that Macbeth has been a little bit corrupted by the witches at this point. I've written here that there is no heroic couplet for Duncan. Welcome, Kingsman. I think I'm possibly wrong. I think there is a rhyming couplet there. But if there wasn't, if you could argue a little bit that there wasn't, if there wasn't, then you might see that as Duncan right now is losing power, or at least passing power on to somebody else. Okay, so that is Act 1, Scene 4. It's a pretty short one. The next one, we get to see Lady Macbeth properly in full. So I look forward to going through that one with you guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.